Welcome to Empowered by Iron, the podcast for female strength athletes by female strength athletes. We are your hosts, Kristen Lander from Fiercely Fueled Nutrition Coaching and Mary Morton, PhD candidate and weightlifter. Together, we are Empowered by Iron.
Hello, welcome back to Empowered by Iron. This week, we are going to talk about a topic that is very near and dear to mine and Mary's heart, and that is this idea of eating for performance and letting physiology take its course and the nature of training take its course on your body, as opposed to forcing things to happen in your body, such as forcing muscle gain and forcing fat loss. So I think it's going to be a really good episode, and Mary's got a little story to kick us off.
Okay, so I've been a bad athlete.
Shame.
For shame. So if you are a listener of Empowered by Iron, you know that we talk a lot about training for strength rather than trying to cut, or we're not a proponent of cutting. That's not what we are about. We're a proponent of, hey, you should fuel your body and be the athlete that you are.
Yeah, get as strong as you possibly can.
Exactly. And I have not been doing that. I have been in a caloric deficit, so trying to cut since August. And I say trying. I mean, I lost 4 kilos, which was pretty significant. I feel good. The cut wasn't horrible. I wasn't like dying for food all the time. It was totally fine. But I realized that it hit me because I am cleaning now what I cleaned about a year ago. And while I have gotten stronger in some of the other lifts, I've not really made the type of progress that I thought that I could potentially make. So we were in the gym the other day. And Kristen and I were talking about this, and we were kind of talking about how, again, the new year, everyone's cutting, everyone wants to lose weight, and it's got to be this quick, fast, and easy thing. And then I professed that I have not been doing good, and I have been in a caloric deficit, which then spurred this whole episode of talking about body recomposition and not forcing your body to do something, but letting your body do something naturally. Now, I explained this a little bit more in a vlog I recorded, which will go live tomorrow. So you can join me on this journey and talk about uncomfortable things together with me on the vlog. But for today, we're going to talk about what body recomp is, how it works, how does fat loss work, how does muscle gain work, all that good stuff. So you can, coming into this new year, you can all feel comfortable in, hey, I don't need to cut. I can just get strong, and here's how.
Yeah. Well, and I think so. This is like part of the noise that we talked about in the beginning of the year, right? Is that we see all this conflicting information, like you're supposed to get strong, but you're also supposed to look really lean. And those two are difficult to do. Well, being lean doesn't equal being strong. Like they don't have anything to do with each other, really. I'm not saying that like you need to be overweight and that you shouldn't be healthy or anything like that, but definitely, you don't have to give into this idea that you have to look a certain way in order to be a good athlete. And I would argue that if you're kind of newer to the sports, you've been training a year or two or less, then you don't necessarily need to be concerned with the composition of your body as long as you're in a healthy range. You maybe need to worry most about just getting really damn strong and forget about everyone that's telling you need to have abs to be a good athlete.
Yeah, what a novel idea. And
right.
And we're not saying that this is really easy, especially mentally. You know, it can really be a mind fuck if you're working really hard in the gym every single day and you're putting in all these hours training and you're eating to fuel your body, which is new to most of us. I mean, we think we know what we're doing, but then we actually allow ourselves to do it. And all of a sudden it's like this free range and you're eating Oreos like no one's business. Just kidding. Don't do that. But it can be uncomfortable. And we're here to tell you that it's okay. You'll get comfortable with uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And today we wanted to talk about the whole idea of body recomp. So we see a lot about weight loss and abs or like winter bulking in the news, on Instagram, on social media, all that good stuff. Both of these approaches can be a bit drastic, like 0 to 60 in 4 seconds or whatever. Like you want it quick and you want to get it done and over with. Like cutting, usually 12-week cut, boom, no problem. And then bulking, usually a 12-week bulk where you're putting on, yes, muscle, but you're also putting on quite a bit of fat. But there is this third option that isn't discussed well because it doesn't sell a lot of programs. It's just body recomposition. It's eating enough food to fuel your daily activities, getting stronger and losing body fat, but not weight in the process. Right. There's a difference, and we'll get into that. But before we dive into what body recomp is and why you should hop on the body recomp train, we have to talk about the science of fat loss and the science of muscle gain. How does it work? And how we can use our body's natural processes to work with us rather than against us. So, our resident nutrition expert, you want to take it away?
Yeah. So, we're going to talk a little bit about the science of fat loss, and it's actually really simple. Fat loss is incredibly simple. As Mary, I think made a note about. She said it usually comes with a side of, I'd love to, but I'm on a cut. So, it's true. It's when you're on a cut, when you're trying to lose weight, and maintain strength while you're trying to do it, things, have to be dialed in perfectly, and it's not fun. There's definitely a time and a place for it, and it can be done, but I think that it's done way more often than it needs to be done. So absolutely. Anyway, let's talk about how do you lose weight? Literally, you just burn more calories than you require to maintain your weight. So everyone has a basal metabolic rate, it's called, which is how many calories your body burns at rest just to do its regular daily processes. And then you add in on top of that, you add in what sorts of activities you do throughout the day, and you come up with a number that's called TDEE. It's the total daily energy expenditure. So in order to lose weight, you just have to take in less calories than your total daily energy expenditure. So that's called being at a caloric deficit. It's super simple. The science of fat loss is the simplest thing I can possibly think of, but it is the hardest thing to execute. Anyone who's been through it, I mean, it's a challenge, right? It can be done. Absolutely. I mean, people are successful at losing body fat all of the time, but, it's a challenging thing. And when you're an athlete, it's even harder because you've got to try to make sure that you're not losing muscle mass when you do that. And you've got to make sure that you're not losing muscle strength. And most of us, we aren't just in the business of trying to maintain our strength. We want to gain strength. So in order to make all of that happen at the same time is very challenging.
Right. And there's a difference between weight loss and fat loss. Weight loss is everything combined. So that means you've probably lost some muscle along with the fat that you wanted to lose, which is not ideal. But fat loss, and you're right, there are definitely very stringent ways to reduce the amount of muscle loss in a cut phase. So when you're trying to just lose body fat, but it's very difficult and you have to stay on track. It's a science. It's an equation. You have to X and Y have to be the right amount, or Z is going to be all off, and you're going to cause some muscle loss, or you're going to cause fat gain. And so that's the difference between weight and fat loss. Weight is your muscle mass and your fat mass, and whatever tissue mass combined, that's your weight. Fat loss is when you actually lose the fat on your body.
Right. And yeah, and it's real, by the way, it's really common when people are on a cut for them to lose a little bit of muscle mass. I mean, just a little bit of that weight may be muscle. But we try to minimize it as much as possible. But yeah, so when you're eating at a caloric deficit, you're not fueling your body for all of its processes, like basically muscle synthesis and repair. And so that's just.
And let's be real here. Your body does more than put on muscle. You have brain function. You have intestinal function. You have circulation function. Like, there's more things to life than putting on muscle, literally. And I would like to also point out, while we're talking about this, because now I'm all fired up, that protein is not just muscle. Protein does not equal muscle. Almost every single function in your body involves some types of protein.
Right.
That protein may be metabolically active. It may be an enzyme which causes some type of reaction in your body, or it could literally be muscle. But protein does not equal muscle.
Right. Muscles are made of proteins. The proteins are the building block for muscle, rather. But there's protein serves a whole lot of other functions in our body, really important functions. But as weightlifters and powerlifters, we tend to think in terms of muscles, right?
Well, yeah. I'm a scientist too. So I think of protein and it's like, well, you have DNA and then you have RNA and then you have protein.
Right.
But it's very easy in the strength world to forget that protein is involved in so many things in your body besides muscles.
Right. But really important.
Getting us off track. Mm-hmm. Let's focus back in.
Well, no, that's a good segue into the science of muscle gain, really. So your body is constantly breaking down and building up the proteins that Mary's talking about. And in a healthy body with a decent diet, the two tend to balance each other out. So you've got muscles breaking down, which is catabolism, and you've got muscles building up, which is an anabolic process. So for muscles to get stronger and bigger, the protein synthesis must occur faster than the breakdown of the protein. And there's one really easy way that this happens, which is lifting some heavy ass weights. Progressive overload, which is placing your muscles under heavier and heavier loads over time, is the primary driver of muscle growth. It damages those muscle cells, which tells your body it needs to ramp up that protein synthesis and to repair the tissues. So your body then adapts to be better able to deal with that stimulus of training. So then it adds new muscle cells, which increases the muscle size and strength. So pretty cool. I think it's a really cool process. And so really what that means is that your primary goal of training should be increasing the weight on the bar in order to drive new muscle growth and more strength. But in order to do that, you have to be eating enough protein to repair and having enough overall calories to ensure that this protein synthesis can occur. Because if the calories aren't there, and if you're not eating enough protein, this process is not going to be as efficient as it should be.
Right. Because you're missing key components.
Yes. So, body recomposition is something that we are seeing all over the place right now. And it can happen in a lot of different ways. I mean, anything that changes your percent of body fat versus your percent of lean muscle tissue is considered body recomposition. So it could be getting more body fat or having less body fat or gaining more muscle tissue or losing muscle tissue. I mean, all of those things are considered body recomposition. But we see a lot this like quick-ish, like lose fat and try to gain muscle. And so, for a beginner, so someone who's been training less than a year, it's pretty simple for them to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. It's a pretty easy process. You have beginner gains. The body's basically just burning calories at a really quick rate. And so that's something that probably everyone, when they started lifting, experienced. This is the kind of thing that someone who is training or is just working out their strength training just for health and maybe wanting some positive body recomposition to occur. These are the kinds of things that they experience, and it happens pretty quickly for them. This is, in an untrained person, a really simple thing to do. I would argue that if you are in a strength sport, but you're new to it, that you probably don't want to be at a caloric deficit unless you are over 30 to 35% body fat, because you're going to miss out on a lot of beginner gains. If you're, over 35% body fat, it's probably going to be healthier for you to try to drop some of that body fat. So then, go ahead and be at a caloric deficit. But if you're new to the sport and you're really wanting to go all out and get strong, do not worry about being at a caloric deficit, because you're going to have some really cool things that are going to end up happening to your body as long as you're feeding it enough. And that is, you're going to grow muscle, which is going to in turn burn fat, which we'll get into in a minute. But once you've been training for a long period of time, so you've been training for a couple of years, it becomes a lot harder to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time and maintain your strength. It's just, your body's not, you're kind of reaching, the top of your genetic potential, and it's just a lot harder to make those sorts of changes. Same thing as
body's basically become adapted, right? It's become adapted
exactly
to training and doing what it needs to do, and it becomes very efficient at what you want it to do.
Right.
It's just like with people who severely cut calories and they go low and low and low and low, and then they may be eating 500 calories a day. And if they eat 700 calories a day just randomly, their body immediately stores that 200 extra calories as excess fat because it's so efficient at working at 500 calories. It's like, holy shit, I need to save this extra calories. Like, your body's really, really good at adapting to what you throw at it.
Right. Right. So these quick kind of cuts, I definitely have nutrition clients that I do this with, and there's a time and a place for it for people, but it sucks as an athlete. Being at a caloric deficit as an athlete sucks. You don't recover as well. You have a decreased ability to build muscle. And I think the worst part of it is just being hungry, because that, for a lot of people, that leads to binging, and then you binge, and that just draws this process out to be longer and longer. So you're at a caloric deficit for an even longer period of time. You're not recovering from your workouts for an extended period of time, and you're hindering your ability to build muscle. That's just the facts about being at a caloric deficit.
I would say, like, your attitude with a lower amount of calories, it really affects your mood. And I thought of this because for the past couple months, I think you've made the observation, Kristen, that you keep asking me, like, how's training going? Are you okay? Is everything okay? And every time I'm like, I'm fine. And like, every time you ask me, I'd get more and more pissed. I'd be like, what the fuck? I'm fine. Everything's fine. I'm fine. But I mean, really, now that I'm eating like a normal human athlete and trying to fuel my performance, I enjoy training so much better. I'm a lot happier. I'm enjoying it, and I don't feel as much of a bitch.
Yeah. So I definitely noticed this huge difference in Mary. All of a sudden I was like, she doesn't really seem like she's having fun when she's here anymore. And like, that's one thing. I know. And I could see, like, your training was kind of suffering a little bit. Like, you weren't getting strong at the same rate that you had been getting strong before, which that happens in training. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I'm kind of looking at all this and I'm like, this is kind of weird, but okay, whatever. I mean, it's just maybe just the cycle that Mary's in, and no big deal. But I did keep asking you, You
Yeah, you
okay?
did.
Everything going on? Like, what's going on? And then when you were like, so I've been at a caloric deficit since August, I was shocked. Just because we've talked about this so much. It's just that we've talked about so much about how people don't need to do that and whatever. And listen to you listening to this right now. I'm not saying that you shouldn't want to lose weight or fat. I'm not saying that that it's wrong to want abs and things like that. All that, we all go through that, and we all want, our bodies to look a certain way and whatever.
And we want to feel comfortable in our own skin, whatever that means. And
absolutely.
People have varying degrees of what comfortable in your own skin is.
Right. Well, and so that's why, over the last several months, we've been talking about this idea, because I had it happen to me, right? Like, I was trying to come back from surgery, and my body had changed in a way that I didn't really like. I was not as strong. I didn't have as much muscle. I had more body fat. And I was really trying really hard to get back to the athlete I was a year ago before I went out for all my surgeries and my injury. And so, I was also eating a caloric deficit for a little while. And then, but in my head, it's like I have this calculator basically that I have created for figuring out what people's basal metabolic rate is, what their total daily energy expenditure is, where they should be at if they're trying to cut or maintain or gain, versus, how many days a week they train. I mean, it's all very scientific. I have that down to a science. I'm really good at figuring that out. So I had put myself on some, total calories and broken that down into certain macros where I was maintaining my weight. I didn't want to be maintaining my weight. I wanted to maybe lose a little or just recomp a little.
Well, and you hadn't been training consistently for a while at this point, right?
Right.
You were just kind of getting back into the full swing.
Right. And so I was using the scale as my tool. So I would weigh myself and take an average every week and go, okay, well, I'm maintaining my weight. So I'm obviously eating enough food. And then I hit a breaking point where I just didn't feel good. You guys might remember in the hormone episode, I figured out I had some hormonal stuff going on. I mean, it was just a lot of stuff going on. And so I finally was like, fuck it. It's most important for me to be healthy and for me to get stronger and for me to be enjoying training. And so I was like, okay, what would I tell a client? So I sat down and wrote myself a program, exactly what I would have written for a client of mine in my situation. And guess what? It's been amazing. I'm eating for sports performance right now. I'm eating for performance. My lifts have gone up a ton. I have ended up leaning out. I'm eating more food than I can even ever have imagined I'd be eating. And, this is all stuff that as a coach, I know this stuff, but it's hard to apply it to yourself because it can be scary.
There's still that fear, right? There's still that fear. It's just not going to work. Even though it's going to work. It's still part of you is like, this isn't going to work.
Right. So this is why we decided we wanted to talk to you guys about this saner approach, in my opinion, to nutrition and to body recomposition. And that is the thing that's been driving me crazy is that we've forgotten that all of the principles of physiology still apply. So we've got if you eat, you guys might know if you listened to our previous episode, or maybe it was our bonus episode, that I am not using the word maintenance anymore. No longer using the term eating at maintenance. I'm eating for performance is the term I prefer, because I think maintenance implies that we're never going to change and our bodies are constantly changing. So, eating for performance and letting physiology work for you. So as we talked about in the beginning of the episode was how your muscles grow and how fat is lost. And, when you can actually eat a lot of food, you can build a decent amount of muscle tissue. And muscle tissue is metabolically expensive, meaning it burns more calories than fat. So 10 pounds of muscle burns 50 calories a day at rest, which doesn't sound like a lot until you compare it to fat tissue, which 10 pounds of fat tissue burns only 20 calories a day at rest. So that's a significant difference.
It's huge.
Right. And eating for sports performance while training heavy and hard will create a sufficient anabolic environment to promote muscle growth and strength gains. That muscle tissue, like I said, is metabolically expensive. It will burn more calories. So that means in turn, over time, the more muscle you're able to build, the more your body is going to naturally start burning off some fat, and it will lead to recomposition over time, and it will make you a much happier athlete because you're not trying to force this either going way over your caloric intake. So a caloric surplus, which we didn't even really talk about, that's another way to grow muscle. And if you've been training for, 10 plus years hard, you probably do need to do some things like that because like Mary talked about, your body is adapted to what you're doing. But for most of us, we can get by with just eating for sports performance, eating at what would be considered maintenance calories or maybe a tiny little caloric surplus so that you can build muscle. And that is going to eventually lean you out. You're going to start seeing some major changes in your body. This is a slower process. You have to be patient. So if you're
Which is the hardest part.
Right. Well, and if you're in it, so this is where you have to be really
committed. I mean, you have to be committed to be
you have to
strength.
You have to know, what is your goal? Is your goal to look like an athlete, or is your goal to be a strong fucking athlete? Which is your goal? You've got to decide. And then it doesn't mean that you can't eventually be really ripped up if that's what you want and have that really lean look. You can probably get there, but you can, if you're patient with it and you decide, hey, you know what, being strong is what's most important to me, then take this route because it is so much fun and it is so much easier. I can't even tell you how much easier it is. It's awesome. But it's not, it does take a lot of patience, and we live in a society where everyone wants everything right now. You think, oh, this fat on my thigh, I need to get rid of it like yesterday. And so, a slower recomposition approach is not going to get you to a place where, that fat is gone yesterday very quickly. But also, who cares if you have a little fat on your thigh? Like,
whatevs.
Doesn't make you any less of a person.
Well, I would like to say that that does make me uncomfortable, but I am learning to be comfortable in the skin that I'm in. And this could be a whole nother episode talking about this, but first things first, go buy goddamn clothes that fit. Stop trying to fit into clothes that your thighs don't fit into. That's Mary talking to Mary. I mean, it's taken me so long to realize that. I finally went and bought pants that fit, like I can wear to work. And I remember texting my partner and I was like, hey babe, guess what? I bought jeans and they fit and it's weird. And he's like, finally, you went and got yourself some freaking pants. And it's little things like that I think over time, as your body starts to change and you accept it, those will help you. Because then you put on pants, you're like, oh, they fit. That's right, because you bought them to fit your thighs.
Right. Well, and that's the whole like self-acceptance and self-love thing that can be really difficult for us. But I think that the lessons of training show us to love ourselves and accept ourselves, because you're like, well, holy shit. I mean, I just squatted 300 pounds. These thighs are worth something. So, but this approach can be a little bit more mentally challenging. I definitely, once I started eating the right amount of food. I was really nervous about it, because I had been at a period in my life where I had been really lean and I liked being really lean. I don't think that majority of people in my life liked me being really lean because I think I wasn't as happy that way. It definitely was a challenge and it was scary. And then all of a sudden my training started, just my numbers started skyrocketing and I was hitting my old PRs again with being out for a year, and I'm finally hitting numbers, like my old PRs and surpassing them. And I did go through a period where I was like, I feel like I maybe put on a little bit of fat, but that's okay because I can see a little bit of muscle here too. And I'm just going to ride this process out. And it's been a remarkable process for me. And I want everyone to get on this train because it's just so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
But it is scary, and you'll see, you won't see the changes occurring in your body as quick, but you will see performance benefits much quicker.
Which is why I wanted to start the vlog. I titled it Vlog, Veee log, because I'm funny. But I started it simply so that I can document those things and I can talk you guys through it. I mean, you can see it happening as I'm doing it. And I have to say, I'm very terrified to do this whole video thing. There's a reason we started the podcast. It's because we have the face for radio. No, I'm just kidding. But we're more comfortable with, using our voices rather than our faces. So we'll see how this goes. Be kind. Be kind to me. Okay. I think that was really good. What do you think, Kristen?
Yeah, I think that's great. So you guys, I know we've gotten a lot of questions about how people wanting us to explain to them how body recomposition works. And so this is it. And I just want to reiterate that you still can do, the typical cutting program if you want to, and you still can do the typical, muscle gain bulking program if you want to. And those are the things, I think, the results that we see all over social media, those sorts of quick results are what sell programs for companies. And, I really wish that a lot more of my clients came to me wanting to just increase their performance, because the ones that I do have that have done that are like, holy shit, why didn't I know about this? This is amazing. And it's been so fun to work with those people and see them just crush it in the gym week after week after week, and then see their body responding to it. So that's the other thing that you guys need to understand, is that this whole look like an athlete thing, looking like an athlete is a byproduct of being an athlete, and high performing athletes do not starve themselves. I'm getting off my soapbox now. I get excited about it. But yeah, we don't see enough of this posted. So this is our
mission to post about it. So we hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you want more stuff like this, if you want some bonus goodies that we are going to dish out every single week, and we have been dishing out, go join our Patreon page, and you can support the podcast and support the growth of this female community. It's a great space. We release blog posts, extra audio, and you have the chance to be on some of our live guest interviews. Also, speaking of community, if you haven't already, go join our Facebook group page, Women in Strength Athlete Resource. We have some awesome conversations on there. There's some amazing ladies on there. And I just posted a bench video, technique video, to help you guys out. So go check it out and let me know what you think of that. Is that it?
That's it.
All right.
We'll talk to you later.
We'll talk to you later. Bye.